Every once in a while, I make a prediction that comes true. I nail it, and I look like I can see into the future. It doesn't happen often, at all, but I've had my fair share. But I'm not here today to pat myself on the back. Quite the opposite, actually. Today's video will shine a light on a handful of times I was completely off base. Whether it was a first impression that rubbed me the wrong way, or a high level of hype where the final product just didn't come through, the focus today is me being wrong. This should be fun, right? Feel free to leave a comment with your own experiences before you watch the video to see if we line up on any of these. After the break, we'll get to it. Every video here on 616 Entertainment is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos and podcasts and more. Pro Wrestling Tees has the merch. As always, thank you for watching. The first game we'll dive into today is Resident Evil 4. And before you line your crosshairs over my skull, let me explain what I'm talking about. I love this game. It's in my top 10 favorites of all time, and the remake is incredible as well. But my first impression of this one was bad. It just wasn't what I was looking for. I was at my buddy Bathroom Money Tim Ewer's house, and he had just gotten Resident Evil 4 for his GameCube, and he was going to town. I have a specific memory of watching him fight Salazar, this big crazy tentacle boss thing. I knew what I was seeing was objectively awesome, but I just felt like this wasn't Resident Evil. The franchise, to me, was about lumbering zombies and faster, scarier monsters. These mind-controlled villagers walking around and talking, not eating flesh. A big dude with a chainsaw and a sack over his head. This felt like a completely different series. I felt like, wow, I guess Resident Evil has moved on without me. That sucks. And long story short, when I got the controller in my hand, I learned very quickly that the personal experience is much different. And when you are in the shoes of Leon Kennedy yourself, there's simply no denying that Resident Evil 4 is one of the greatest games ever made. Sure, this was different, but the dread, the fear, the drive were all still here. I judged a book by its cover, and as we all know, that's a mistake. I will never forget watching TV with my dad in early 2011. The commercial played for WWE All Stars, and he said, "Now that looks boss." The characters were cartoonishly proportioned. The moves were all exaggerated and turned up to 11. My knee-jerk reaction, though, was, that's not what I'm looking for. This was an era of wrestling that I wasn't watching. I hated wrestling at this time. As a matter of fact, I hadn't watched any of it since 2008. I wanted a wrestling game that was something like Fire Pro Returns, but also something like Here Comes the Pain. Maybe a mode or two from the SmackDown vs. Raw games. This goofy stuff? Nah. But then, and tell me if you've heard this one before, then I played WWE All Stars, and it was fucking awesome. This game runs on the same engine as TNA Impact, an admittedly shallow, though underrated wrestling game from 2008. The story modes are short and sweet. The roster is an excellent mixture of the past and present, and overall, I highly recommend WWE All Stars. Moral of the story on this one? I was an idiot, and my dad was right. Let's go in another direction. Dead Rising, which originally released for the Xbox 360 in 2006, was a game I didn't have any way to play for the longest time. I wasn't really bothered by the exclusivity because I wasn't really interested in this game. The combat looked stilted to me, the talk of time limits seemed annoying, and overall, I wasn't dying to check it out. Over the years, Capcom opened the world of Dead Rising. Sequels, porting the original to platforms it hadn't initially released on, blah blah blah. I now had a way to play this game, finally, and I still didn't care. It wasn't until Dead Rising Deluxe Remastered released and I watched the Digital Foundry tech review on it and I said, wait, this is basically a Dawn of the Dead video game. I love Dawn of the Dead. I do love to kill zombies, and this game would let me kill lots of zombies. I have never given it a shot, and this looks good. Let's do it. Why not? Guess what? I was right. I don't like it. I will go as far as to say I hate it. The combat sucks, the map sucks, the missions aren't fun, your AI partners are useless, and I wasted $50 on this fucking game. How do I make this segment fit the title of this video? How about this? I was wrong to finally give Dead Rising a chance. How do you like that? I think the one game I've started more than any other, hoping to find a way to love it, is Dragon Age Inquisition. It's the same thing. Every time I go into the character creator, I put together the hottest woman I can imagine, because if I'm going to be staring at this character for 50 hours, I want it to be a good looking woman, how you don't? And I get to work, and I just can't do it. I get to the war table thing, and the game completely goes down the tubes. I don't like managing a squad in any game, so I should have known better. The combat really wasn't landing for me even after trying several different classes, and I despise an environment that is so big and bland that I have to constantly press R3 to see if there's anything around me worth interacting with. I've never gotten further than 3 or 4 hours in. And if you're gonna type up a comment saying, dude, it gets really good, stick it out, I refuse. I have come to terms with the fact that Dragon Age Inquisition is just not for me. And watching the reviews early on and going out and buying a copy, I was wrong. Etch another tally in the bad call category. When you hear there's going to be a Bloodborne clone that adapts the story of Pinocchio, immediately you go, what the fuck are they thinking? How is that gonna work? Then you find out the game is called Lies of P, which could be one of the worst titles I've ever heard in my life. Imagine choosing the only letter of the alphabet that is also a smelly bodily fluid and putting it in your game's name. Anyway, I assumed Lies of P would be a cheap knockoff of one of the greats. And I was wrong. Lies of P is so fucking good, I can't believe it. I won't repeat myself over and over. That's the full message. This game is above and beyond much of what released in 2023. Easily top 5 of the entire year, in my book. That title, the concept, they made a terrible first impression on me. But as we've established today, sometimes I'm a moron. And to close it out, the main event of the evening, it's Red Dead Redemption 2. This is another one where I'm sure you're demanding an explanation right now, and I've got it for you. I wasn't put off by the trailers or the previews. I couldn't wait for this one. I earned the Platinum Trophy in the first Red Dead Redemption, and I was so excited to dive back into the Old West. The problem reared its ugly head after I started playing. The opening portion of Red Dead 2 is very long and very slow. We're riding horses through the snow. We're trudging through the snow. Watching a conversation take place from afar. This whole thing takes forever. Fast forward 3 or 4 hours and I was at my wit's end. I was openly telling my girlfriend, other buddies of mine, anybody who would listen, that I hated it. I was wondering when the hell this game was gonna let me play it. When are they gonna open this world up and just let me go to explore to my heart's content? I ran into this mad preacher standing in a river and he was shouting to the heavens, and I got into the water and I helped him out. I brought him to safety, and I was still frustrated about the confines of this world, and then I realized the game did not lead me to this preacher. I just happened upon him. Nobody told me to come over here. And that's when it clicked. The game had been wide open the entire time. The world was mine for the taking from the very start, and it was my fear of being a wanted man that kept me on the straight and narrow. I would finish a mission and they would show me the next one, and I felt like I needed to go do it right away in hopes that my reputation would recover, but it was never going to recover. I'm an outlaw. I was always going to be an outlaw, and I had to take it upon myself to start acting like one. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a 10. It's one of the best of all time. And that first few hours of frustration was entirely my fault. Oh, there it is, Dan-Dans. A handful of bad first impressions. A collection of incorrect initial opinions. Please, feel free to share your stories in the comments. I have more of these. Like I said, I miss the mark pretty often. But if you enjoyed this, let me know and maybe I'll do a sequel. Feel free to support me on Patreon or right here under a YouTube channel membership. That's the only way to watch Let's Play Friday, or starting on January 6, 2025, that will be the only way to watch Monday Night Blitz 3. There you go, big announcement, that's the premiere date. Until next time, Dan-Dans, I love ya, and I'll see you soon.